Welcome. Now, there is an ongoing or growing debate in Nigeria about whether communities should be armed to tackle insecurity. Some argue that arming communities would enable them to defend themselves against attacks from bandits, kidnappers, and other criminal elements. Proponents of this approach point to the success of vigilante groups in some parts of the country, which have been able to repel attacks and provide security for their communities. However, others have raised concerns about the potential risk of arming communities. Now, some of them include escalation of violence and the proliferation of small arms. There's also the issue of lack of accountability and oversight, potential for communal conflicts, amongst others. The Nigerian government has established various security initiatives, such as the community policing program, aimed at engaging local communities in security efforts. However, the idea of arming communities remains a contentious issue. Joining me this evening to discuss this is Dr. Aigbe Diyeli. He is a lecturer with the Department of Criminology and Security Studies, Caleb University. He joins virtually from Lagos. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. I mean, this issue of local defense, before we even get into specifics as to reference to the recent comment by the DSS chief, what do you think of the idea of self-defense in Nigeria? People having rights to bear arms.
Our constitution does not empower us to do that. We can see the effects of the American government in the section of the American constitution that empowers them to have firearms. You can see what is happening in America now. It's a free-for-all killing in America, and so we cannot bring that same narrative here in this part of the world because we are not. I don't think we're well matured enough or to run that kind of system. The American system that is running the section of the constitution that empowers them to have firearms. You can see what the American system is all about. Up incarceration, blacks are into drugs and everything. It has put pressure on the law enforcement in the world. So we cannot replicate that now. So how are the security analysts and consultants that the DSS chief called for community organization, the national security advisor, everybody should put him to check because he's hitting the points and it can be illuminating national chaos if we want to yield to that warning. That we can see the effect of the insurgency in the northeast, see the proliferations of firearms. You talked about light weapons. You can see the Sahel region, the Lake Chad Basin, putting pressure on our border security. And I believe giving fire communities, they will take advantage of that, and it will be our national security will be under threat. And you can see the pressure we have under our military is going through the insurgency. Normally, the military are not supposed to be and drafted into the insurgency. Is not part of their duty, but because of the capacity of the police to do that job well, that's why they have to bring the military and the firepower of the military. Even it's trained our law enforcement, you've done our military, and you can see the effect of it. And more than 12 years now of insurgency, and we have not been able to nip it on the board because of this. I am appealing to the government. The president should put the DSS man to check, or maybe trying to get attention from the government. I don't know. It will be illuminating national chaos, people. Nigeria is not. If you recall, isn't it what happened in the 8 days of this Tinubu government, when the governors, the six governors came to Aso Rock and talked about state policing, and there was a gathering. Even the former president Abubakar said we should toe that line, but the IG, Federal General Police, said no, we are not ripe enough, and we can see the effect of it now. So we cannot talk of, we are not ripe enough to take state police now. You're now having communities who are going to empower non-state actors.
But I would also want to ask, you've said we are not ripe enough. You've said we are not ripe enough as a country. You've given instances of what is happening in the US.
You can see the electoral process in our election when politicians use talks and everything in the ballot to look at the election that brought this present government into it. So how a lot of people trying to snatch, even when Buhari said that anybody that snatch will be killed, and they created a lot of uprising. So you can see that if you not empower communities, if you look at that point, if you not look at should just look at president now because of the pressure we're having, and the empower the law enforcement to do that. So calling for that community weaponization
Dr. Diyeli
is a threat to our national security, because when the election comes in 2027, community will now empower themselves to take laws into their hands.
Dr. Diyeli, I mean, your point is pretty clear. Your point is pretty clear. You said that as a country, we are not ripe enough because it could just be a recipe for further chaos. But then, this is me not, playing an advocate for it, but just looking at the issues on ground. Let's start with the ratio of our security operatives. Let's look at the police, for instance. Now, the ideal police to population ratio, as recommended by United Nations, is about 1 police officer to, say, maybe, worst case scenario, 400 to about 500 citizens. But unfortunately, Nigeria Nigeria falls way below that. So when you look at this, in ratio to the quantity or the amount of armed personnel security operatives on ground, the population, the proximity, in terms of land mass. I'll give you a personal example, for instance. If you go to places of the north, some states in the north are pretty much vast, and because of the vastness, if there is chaos, in some villages, maybe there's an attack or something, before security operatives get there, the assailants are done. So, I would like you to look at it within this context of what I'll call the shortfall in terms of our security apparatus.
Yes, that's one of the problems we have. Law enforcement are not very proactive. They're not very proactive, and always react to when there's an event. And that's been our narrative. Our law enforcement in part of the world. So because of the shortcomings, you're not looking at the long time in a broad scope. Now say the communities. How many communities do you want to empower? How many communities to give firearms? Who will be held responsible to give account of those weapons? And the proliferation, Nigerians, they only take advantage of any vulnerability. Any opportunity you give them, they abuse it and take laws into their hands. But what will happen to extrajudicial killings? Like if you look at even the police, that they're really constitutionally empowered, the section of Nigerian Constitution empowered them to do that. You can see we're able to recall of the police brutality. So if we now give communities to now use firearms, we can see the effect it will have on our national security, and it will escalate. It will be eliminating national chaos. Who will be held accountable? Communities, and it will be proliferation to other regions. And Nigeria, we're ethnically divided and everything. So and nobody wants to take that risk. I recommend that one to the government, to the president, to do that. And to strengthen our law enforcement agency. We've talked about state policing. We talked about community policing. It's a very critical aspect we need to look at that. Stakeholders involved. It has worked in Pakistan, another part of the community policing. Look at that. If boot holder not empower one man, he can hijack the process and become a warlord, and it will be a prejudice threat. And how do you give account of those firearms? Who under what taxpayer money going to use that to buy that? So I don't suggest that idea will really work. And during the election period, the politician can hijack that process. They have a lot of resources, and I use it to lure those people who have been empowered to put that community hands and put a leash in and put the government under threat. Put national security and national democracy under threat. So no government will allow that to just give permission. You have to go through that, the National Assembly, taxpayers going to go through that process of making that a law. So and the process will be very bureaucratic. So when democracy now, so the government needs to be very careful. I believe as a security analyst, security consultant, I urge the president to put the DSS director to check. But it is a danger to our national security. You don't just come out publicly without any clearance. And I wonder who gave him that clearance to make that comment. It's a threat to our national security.
Well, it was just. I would like to believe. I would like to believe maybe based on intel and maybe what has been observed, he made that particular comment. But I would like to ask you, being a professional when it comes to security matters, you said that Nigerians arming themselves might not just be the way to go, but my question to you is this: what would you suggest as an alternative?
That we talked about the use of technology in our law, the use of intelligence. Technology on that section, United Nations Resolution 295, 296. About our borderline, you made mention about the northeast or region is very big, in terms of mass is very large. The use of technology will help to aid our life, but not empower, to give one community to empower them. And if a president decides to endorse that, the Nigerian press will escalate it that the president is taking side, is giving people, parties will send the wrong narrative. Say the president is trying to be biased, he's trying to give power one to region against the other. It will be twisted, and it will make our national economy more porous and more vulnerable, and our national economy will be under threat. So we talked about the use of technology, collaboration, use of stakeholders, community policing. If this is coming out to make that call, why not? Okay, let us have a stakeholder engagement. Let there will be a consensus agreement. Not one person, because he has the favor of the president, appointed for yesterday, and come out and they make that kind of comment. When Nigeria is a vast country, you can't just one day and take those. It's not a straight jacket thing.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean because he's a DSS man, he knows everything. Sometimes don't see.
I'm going to take you on that on what you said as regards technology. You said technology is could be a way out, but this is not the first time these suggestions have come up, and we've seen cases where even the security forces, they've upped their game in that aspect. You have drones now that can do aerial mapping and all of that, but we still keep having cases of kidnapping, killings, assassinations, and what have you. So my question to you is this: what is the missing gap? What are we not getting correctly?
I believe Nigeria belongs to all of us. We have states in Nigeria. We believe we have the consensus. We look at when the president said there will be a national dialogue on that. So there should be a national dialogue on that. Let's agree consensusly and be able to resolve. Not one man would, because he has the opportunity to come to the DSS and come out and make that kind of call, when we know we have a lot of ethnic groups and different opinions, different narrative, different, and Nigeria is a like country. You don't have to scratch up to expose bitterness and the rawness of the system. So one person can escalate and one crime can take advantage of you. You can see what we are facing at the iPod, the insurgency. They will now say, give it for everyone to harm themselves. Who under which chapter you have to train these people to use firearms? Under what resources are going to use to do all those things? And it's a wrong signal to be like a banana land, a banana republic where there's no real engagement. It's just free for all. And I suppose some people can just take advantage of what powerful people in the government, who oppose the government, can judge the process. You can recall how the thing started. Just like a armed group now escalated and now jeer the audacity. You can see the audacity and trying to jeer the government, killing the military and attacking the military. And we can see the effect now where we're seeing not able to resolve it. And now empowering every community, that means free for all killing. That's what it means. So now unity and it's so paramount to us. We cannot compromise it for one person because in his government to make that kind of call. I know the chief of army staff will not allow that thing to fly. So they will tell President, caution this way. He's hitting the politics and creating the wrong signal.
All right, Dr. Diyeli, let's, bring this conversation down to the DSS, the role of the DSS so far. How would you regard? Did you get me?
Because if we don't leave it to the board.
Dr. Diyeli, can you hear me? Now, I would like us to bring this conversation down to the role of the DSS. So far in of course, ensuring that in the Nigerian state, we know that a part of their responsibility includes counterintelligence, counter-terrorism, protection of some government officials, border control, amongst the list of other roles. But I'd like to know your appraisal on the role of the DSS in recent times. I'm talking about maybe in the last 10 years or even 20. Do you, as the DSS, been living up to its primary role?
From my own experience and from an inside information I've gotten as an intel, they're not very effective. They're just if they're very effective, all this is the intelligence gathering is one of the primary role. That is getting to collect it from intelligence and analyze it and disseminate it and have that collaboration with the agency. You see sometimes they have this interagency rivalry with some other agencies, with the military or the police, and trying to show power, who's more forceful and everything. So the nitty-gritty, the work they need to have done, they're not doing it. And you can see what insurgency. So we talked about one of the strategic plans of the Kobe insurgency is interagency collaboration.
All right.